What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be covering two of the most popular topics that I've covered on this channel, and that is living in California and Los Angeles specifically versus living here in Las Vegas, Southeast Henderson, Nevada. All right, so like I said, this video is going to be comparing specifically Los Angeles, California. I know a lot of people have watched my Los Angeles video and the 5 reasons why I left. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm gonna put a card to one of these sides here that you can check it out. But I have a lot of people in the comments that have been saying that California is not like this, California is not like this, California is not this, California is not that. I'm comparing Los Angeles. That's why the title of that video is Leaving Los Angeles. I can't speak for any other areas. I've never lived in any other areas. So this video specifically is comparing my experience in Los Angeles compared to my experience living here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, again, this is not about Nevada as a whole. This is not about California as a whole. These are about these two specific cities. So before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe down below. I cover different vlogs, fitness, travel, mindset. I've been killing a lot of these Las Vegas topics because they've been doing really well. So if those sound like videos that you're interested in, make sure you subscribe down below. Now we're gonna be comparing 4 main areas between these two specific cities, and that's gonna be the weather, the transportation, the people, and the lifestyle. All right, so we're gonna be starting off with just comparing the weather in the two different cities. Now, the main difference that I'm gonna say is in Los Angeles, you pretty much have one season. It does get a little bit cooler in the winter months, but for the most part, your temperatures are pretty much always in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Very rarely does it go above that or below that, but it does time to time. Now, here in Vegas, I like to say that we actually do have 4 seasons. Some people say we only have 2. We have extremely hot and we have extremely cold. But in my case, I thought that the hot months clearly were the summer, your June, July, August. Your cold months were December, January, February, maybe even January, February, and March. Either of those, you're gonna have cooler weather here. Besides that, the weather on the other months, which would be April, May, and then you would have October and November, the weather's beautiful. It's 70 degrees, 60 at night, maybe 80s, but overall the weather is very comfortable. It's very beautiful here. So between the two, obviously I'm gonna say that LA has the better weather. People always argue with me that, oh, I love the weather in California and I stay here because of the weather, and then they complain about the rent prices, they complain about the traffic, they complain about the taxes, but they tell me that the weather is just so fantastic. And that's not anything that I'm ever going to debate. The weather is better in Los Angeles year-round. Okay, so the next topic we're gonna be covering, guys, is the transportation. And first off, we're gonna be covering traffic. How is the traffic in Vegas compared to LA? Now, I've lived here for a little bit over a year here in Vegas, and the traffic definitely has gotten worse in the past year. There's a lot of people from California moving here, so the traffic is getting worse. And I honestly expect it to continue to get worse because there's more people moving in every day, every week, every month. On top of that, the Las Vegas Raiders Stadium is coming here and it's going to be finished sometime next year. So I expect when that finishes to make things even worse, and you're going to want to definitely avoid anywhere in and around that stadium during game days, during big events, etc. But there's tons of apartments going up, tons of houses going up over here. So I think as the city expands, the traffic is going to continue to get worse here. With that being said, it doesn't compare anywhere close to how bad traffic was in LA. So you're gonna enjoy not having to sit in traffic so much as you do currently. The next part that we'll talk about is the Uber and Lyft. You have Uber and Lyft obviously in both cities. If you are somebody who relies on these services to get to work, I would just recommend living as close to work as possible, because people think of Las Vegas and they just think of the Strip, but it's actually a very large valley. It's, I wanna say like 40, 45 miles if you go diagonal from the northwest to the southeast. So it is very spread out. And if you happen to live where I live in Henderson, and then you work over in Summerlin, you're gonna be paying a fortune if you're going to work 4 or 5 days a week using Uber and Lyft. So just be mindful of where you live in each of these areas. Now, the same thing goes for LA. If you live in Santa Monica, but then you work downtown, you're relying on Uber and Lyft, you're gonna be paying a ton of money. So in either city, I would only recommend using these services if you just don't drive that much, or you live very close to work and it works out better for you than getting a car. Otherwise, I would suggest in either city, whether you're living in Vegas or LA, that you do have your own vehicle just to get around a lot easier, especially if you are working full time. So the next subject we're gonna cover is all about the people living here. So the first thing that I wanna touch on just before we get into any of the other two here that I wanna cover is the homelessness. Now, a lot of people, some people argue with me about this in LA, and guys, I don't know how you can even argue this fact. The homelessness is at a severe level. It's risen 16% just in the last 12 months in Los Angeles. I think there's over 60,000 homeless people now. There's tents everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go in Los Angeles, if you go down West Hollywood, Mid-City, Santa Monica even, it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to see tents, especially under freeways, and it's just very prevalent, and honestly, it's just very sad to see. Now, in Vegas, yes, we do have homelessness. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that we don't, but the areas that really have that, it's saturated around the east side of the Strip, and that's really it. I know we do have underground tunnels as well. There's like homeless people living underground. I completely get it. I know it's here. I'm not telling you that it's not here, but where I live currently here in Southeast Vegas, which is Henderson, I think I've seen 2 homeless people the entire year that I've lived here. So this is a very nice area. You're not gonna see all of that. I don't know if one day it will spread down here. I don't know. My thing is it gets hot here. You know, this weather is not necessarily ideal for somebody to be outside homeless. So maybe that's why the problem is so bad in LA. I have no idea. It's just not as prevalent here. I'm not telling you that you're not going to see it, because you will, but it's not gonna be like it is in LA. And so that kind of covers just that situation as far as that goes. Like in LA, I had issues with, I couldn't even sit outside of a Chipotle and eat my meal without somebody asking me for money or for food or something. I've never had that issue here, ever. I can sit outside if I want, and I can eat my meal, and people are not gonna bother me. There's not gonna be a panhandler coming and asking me for money. So in that aspect, I think that it's a lot better of a situation here. Again, I don't know how long that's gonna stay that way. The next part we're gonna get into is the friendliness. Now, I, as a whole, feel like people are a lot more friendly here. In Las Vegas, I feel like people are just overall happier. People are not as stressed out. People are not as tapped out as they are in California and Los Angeles. I feel like LA has this reputation that, you know, you really have to keep up with everybody. You know, this person got a new car, so now I have to go lease a car, and then this person got a luxury apartment, now I have to get a luxury apartment. And it's just this game of like, who can get into more debt and still keep afloat. But honestly, what I noticed in LA is that a lot of people they're just tapped out. You know, they're leasing stuff they can't afford. They're living a lifestyle that they can't afford to try to keep up with other people, to impress people that they don't even like. And that's gonna happen anywhere. I'm not telling you that it's not here, and I'm not telling you that it may not be in your current city or in, you know, some city in Kansas. You know, it happens everywhere. People live outside of their means nowadays. But at the end of the day, I don't feel that it's as bad here. I think people are a lot more humble here. And obviously there are certain areas, you know, when you get to the Strip, it's a little more flashy and that, but overall, I think that people here just are overall in a better attitude. They're much more happy. They're more excited to be alive. They're just more friendly. They're more open. You know, they don't seem so just stressed all the time. So I would say here that your people are just going to be just more friendly in general. A lot of people do say that there's a lot of like crooks here, scammers, and I'm sure that there is. I mean, this is Las Vegas. I'm sure that the closer you get to the Strip, the more you hang around these casinos. Look, you are who you hang around with. So if you hang around casinos all the time, you hang around at bars all the time, I don't think you're probably going to meet the best people. So I would advise maybe going outside, going climbing, doing things that you actually enjoy. And then you're going to find people that you resonate with, doing things that are positive. And when you surround yourself with those type of people, you're going to have good people around you. So that would be my kind of comparison between the overall friendliness of the people here versus there. And the last aspect that we're going to touch on, guys, is the dating scene. Now, the thing about Vegas that I will tell you, and the same thing with LA, honestly, is it's a super transient city. I think Vegas is even more transient than LA is, but you get a lot of people coming, you get a lot of people going, so it may be hard for you to actually find somebody here initially. And the same thing goes in LA, because LA people are always just trying to get ahead. People are trying to see who they can meet and how they can progress, and people are focused on their career and focused on themselves. So a lot of people aren't specifically dating to actually find somebody, they're dating to try to get ahead. And I would say that the situation here is probably similar. I don't think it's as bad as LA, but here you just have to be careful, because again, it's very transient. You may meet somebody and then 2 weeks, you know, they're relocating to another city. With that being said, guys, I don't think that you should be moving somewhere specifically to look to date people. I think that you should become the best version of yourself. I think that a lot of people are searching for external validation, especially nowadays. A lot of us feel very empty inside. You know, we have social media and we see all these posts with people who look like they're living this dream life, when in reality, they're not really living that life. They're curating their feed to look a certain way, and then you start to feel bad about yourself and you start to feel like you need somebody. But I think there's just too many people that are just chasing this external validation to find a partner, to find a relationship, to settle down with somebody. And I think it's important that we first take time for ourselves, that we become clear on what our purpose is and what we want to accomplish in life, especially as a man. And once you get that and you start progressing towards that, women are naturally going to come to you. Even if you're a woman and you have good self-care, you have that good, rituals, you just hold yourself at a high level, you're going to attract the man. Same way if you're a man, So I personally don't believe that you should be just dating and dating and dating and dating and dating and dating. I know people have gone on hundreds of dates and they still have not found the right person because honestly, they haven't become the right person. So I think naturally things tend to happen when you're not looking for them. So I wouldn't specifically move here or LA if you're trying to date anybody. I just don't think that's the right move. The right person will come along when you're at the right place that you need to be. And that's kind of what I'll cover with that. The last area that we're gonna cover, guys, is about the lifestyle. So this is gonna be one of our longer ones. So get prepared. This is going to be comparing just the cost of living, all the different aspects that go into your daily life living in each city. So when you're living in California, obviously there is a state income tax. So it varies depending on your income level. Not everybody pays the same thing, but you still have to pay some money to the state each and every year or each and every paycheck. Here in Nevada, you don't. There's no state income tax. With that being said, we do have a higher sales tax than most cities. The sales tax here in Las Vegas is 8.25% as of this video. In LA, it's just over 9%. I want to say 9.25, maybe even 9.5%. So you have a state income tax there, and you have a higher sales tax. You also have taxes such as a gas tax. I think it's 40 cents per gallon. You have the plastic bottle tax, which is 5 to 10 cents. You have the plastic bag tax, which is 10 cents. Now, a lot of people argue those are for environmental reasons, and I'm not going to sit here and argue that, but the problem with it is the reason why California keeps taxing its citizens is because they keep implementing these small taxes and people accept it. So when you allow them to get away with one little thing, they're gonna start to tax you every other way they can. They just introduced some ridiculous climate change tax at restaurants. I was reading that they add 1% to your bill for a climate change tax. So yeah, that's what we're gonna say about the taxes over there. There's just a higher tax over in Los Angeles than there is here in Nevada. Another area that a lot of people talk about is car insurance. Now, a lot of people say that when they move here to Vegas, their car insurance doubles, it goes way up. For me, I don't know why. I may be one of the few people that didn't, but in California, I was paying about $250 a month. When I moved here, my insurance dropped to $115 a month, so it went less than 50% down. I have no idea why. I had Geico at the time. I've never been in an accident in my vehicle. No tickets over the past 10 years. So I'm assuming it had something to do with my driving record, but why it went down so much when other people's usually double, I really can't give you a reason. But for the most part, what I've heard as far as your car insurance, it is going to be a lot higher here in Vegas. I would assume that's because of maybe just the 24/7 operation. Maybe there's more drinking and driving cases. Maybe, I don't know what the exact reason is. Maybe just crime's higher. But at the end of the day, I think you should call your insurance company, see what it's going to be, and find out for yourself as far as your car insurance goes. The next part we're going to talk about is housing. So it is damn near impossible to own a house in Los Angeles unless you're very, very, very well off, and maybe you've had some good investments, maybe you've inherited it, maybe you just make a really good living, then maybe you could afford a house in California. But a lot of people are not going to be able to do that. Here in Vegas, it is actually very affordable. Right now, the prices as of this video, this is June 2019, I believe are super overpriced. I believe they're 20-25% higher than what they should be. And I believe they will come down over the next 12 months once this economy fixes itself. Now, if you're looking to rent, you're not gonna find an apartment in LA for under $1,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment, and that's not even gonna be in a great area. You're gonna have to take what you can get at that point. You may have to share it with a roommate, like a 2-bedroom situation. You're each paying $1,500. I don't know what it is gonna be for you specifically. I know for me, when I lived in Los Angeles, I had a studio apartment. I was paying $1,670 a month, and it was in a busy area, mid-city area. Now here in Vegas, you can get a 1-bedroom or even a studio starting at about $1,000, depending where it is. They go up higher as you start getting more luxurious, as you start getting like lofts and depending on your area. But I would say the average 1-bedroom apartment here in Las Vegas is about $1,100. And that's for a newer place. If you want to go a little bit older, you can probably get down into the $800s, 900s, or if you want to be in a little bit more of not as clean of an area, same thing, $800s, 900s is what I would expect. So overall, your cost of living here in Vegas is substantially less. I pay like almost half the price here. It's about $1,080 compared to $1,670 over there, which after they added everything in, it was like $1,750. So it's about $700 less a month. And I actually have double the space. I actually have a full bedroom now versus over there, I just had a studio. I did not have a washer dryer. I did not have a dishwasher. So this is all of your normal conveniences that you would come to expect living in an apartment. It's just going to be substantially less. Now, with that being said, we're going to go into the job market. So the jobs here ultimately do not pay nearly as much as they do in Los Angeles. Now, for me specifically, it did not really have a big effect on me because I am self-employed. So I have the same income now here that I did in California. So for me, I gave myself a nice raise by relocating here. For most people, I understand that's not the case, and you are going to have to find a job. Now, if you are younger, 20s, 30s, you're attractive, you can work at these casinos on the pool deck. You can be a food runner, you can be a bartender, you can be whatever. And there's a lot of people that make $100,000, $200,000 a year, and a lot of it is in cash tips, because during the summer months and the busy season, you have all these people coming to visit, and the tipping is just very, very well. If, again, you are somebody who fits that category. If you're looking for just your normal job, working at a desk, being maybe an admin, something like that, the pay is going to be substantially less than in California, but you also have to take into account that the cost of living is a lot less, the taxes are less. So it may come off as, they don't pay really well here, but you also have to keep in mind the lifestyle difference with that. So it really depends where you're at. A lot of people I know, they move to California because they're like, oh man, I'm making $100,000 a year. But then by the time they pay their taxes and all these other things and they pay for this expensive apartment, they're not really making any more money. Some people actually make less money after all of that. So the ultimate thing here, I guess, would just be that the overall cost of living is substantially lower in Las Vegas compared to California. So the last thing we're gonna touch on, guys, is just the recreational activities. So marijuana is legal in both cities, no matter where you are, it doesn't matter. So that's something to be aware of. Not a lot of people are used to that. If you're coming from the East Coast or you're coming from middle America, you're not gonna be used to that. Just know it is legal here in both cities, so have at it. As far as the alcohol goes, alcohol is 24/7 here in Vegas, obviously, and over in Los Angeles, I believe it closes at 2 a.m. I'm not a big drinker myself, so I've never really experienced any issues with it closing at 2 a.m., but if you do want to go out here in Las Vegas and it's 3 a.m. and you want to go up the street to the local tavern, you can, and you'll be able to have one. The next thing I will touch on is prostitution. It is legal here in Nevada. Now, not here in Vegas, it is not, but if you just drive 30, 45 minutes away, you can go have at it. There's brothels, it's fully legal. LA, definitely not legal. And the last thing I want to touch on, guys, is just the Second Amendment. I know this is a big case for a lot of people. There's people who really love the Second Amendment. There's people who just don't believe in it. So this is your opinion, take it as you wish, but here in Nevada, it's very open. They do embrace the Second Amendment. It's open carry here. There's really no strict restrictions on getting any type of gun. There's shooting ranges throughout the desert. So it's a very open, positive gun culture here. California, definitely not the case. I have not educated myself a whole lot on that subject, but I will say, I know it is a lot more restrictive. I know it's even restrictive about what you can do if somebody breaks into your house. Like, you can actually be charged if somebody breaks into your house and you're protecting yourself there from what I've heard. So if you have any input as far as the gun culture in California, leave a comment down below and maybe we can all learn from each other. But I just know here in Nevada, it's very open. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. That is just my 4 categories that I touched on that I think pretty much affect everybody on a day-to-day basis.